Good evening. We would like to welcome you to this meeting of the Provo City Board of Canvassers. Today is Tuesday, November 21st. The time is 5:42 p.m. We're convened here in the City Center Municipal Council Chambers. We'd like to begin with a roll call.
Cliff Strachan.
Brian Jones.
David Harding.
Gary Winterton.
Kim Santiago.
Dave Connect.
George Stewart.
Kay Van Buren.
Dave Sewell. And as I've been doing recently, given that I'm wearing two hats, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Dave Connect to conduct.
Thank you. So, Cliff, we don't need any opening prayer and all that. That's for the regular meeting. Okay. Before us is a resolution of the Mayor and the Municipal Council sitting as the Board of Canvassers accepting the election returns and declaring and certifying the results of the vote for general elections held on Tuesday, November 7th, 2017 for the offices of Mayor, City Council 1, City Council 2, and City Council District 5 in the city of Provo, Utah. This will be presented by Janine Weiss.
Council members and administration, I'm not going to get teary-eyed, but I realize that this is going to be my last one as the official city recorder, so I'm excited. I just wanted to present the official canvass of the elections. Provo City held a vote-by-mail general election on November 7th. It was held for the office of mayor, citywide Council 1, and then Council District 2 and Council District 5. And I'll just, if you would like, Kelsey, do you want to go to the canvas report, and then people can just follow along? Okay. For mayor, there were 39,024 active registered voters for the mayor position, with 14,645 ballots cast. It was a voter turnout of 37.5%. And this is more than double what we had 4 years ago and even 2 years ago. So the vote by mail really got the votes out, so I'm really pleased with that. In the citywide race, and so the winner in the mayor, it doesn't say on here, but the winner in the mayor was Michelle Kafusi, and she will be mayor-elect until future notice. Citywide won. There were 39,000 active registered voters with a total of 14,015 ballots cast, a voter turnout of 35.9%, just slightly less, but still very well. And our council chair was the winner in that, Dave Sewell. Council District 2, we had 5,001 registered active voters in that district. 1,378 votes were cast for a voter turnout of 27.5%. And George Handley was the winner in District 2. And then in District 5, we had 1,427. That's wrong. Probably around, I believe it's about 4,790. I have the number right here. Let me just pull it up, just so I can get the right numbers. District 5. There are 6,412 registered voters in District 5, and 1,541 ballots were cast for a voter turnout of 22.5%, and current council member David Harding was selected in that race also. So there were 797 votes cast, provisional votes cast at the Vote Service Center on Election Day. And I might note that that was twice as many votes cast as Orem. Orem has the same number of registered voters as we do, so we had a busy day. It was steady, but we didn't have really lines, but we had quite a few more provisional voters. Of those provisional voters, there were 34 ballots that were not counted. Of those 34 ballots, 4 people had already voted and mailed in their vote by mail, the ballot, so they were not counted. 1 ballot had an incomplete registration. There was 1 ballot that they called invalid, and that's because there was more than one reason why it wasn't counted. And then 11 were not currently registered, and then there were 17 that voted in the wrong precinct, and I'm going, wow, how did that happen? And I'm going, I hope we didn't give people the wrong ballots. But in speaking with Brian Thompson at the county, he explained that the county had a vote service center at the county building where anyone in the county could go to vote on election day. And there were several people that went to the Provo Vote Center Service Center thinking that they could vote there that might not be in Provo, that might have been anyone from any other city. And so they tried to explain that they needed to go to the county, and apparently there were quite a few people that were a little upset, and they said all we wanted to do is vote in the congressional race. So our poll manager decided to go ahead and just give them a ballot, a Provo ballot, and let them vote in the congressional race because it was on all the ballots countywide. And so there was not a vote in a precinct. So when the ballot was counted, it was shown as the wrong precinct. Does that make sense? I thought that was a strange one. And I thought, 17, that's a lot. But actually, there are only 3 other cities in the county that have precincts like we do. And there were actually people who had the same problem in those cities. And so our percentage of people voting in the wrong precinct was the same as Santaquin and Spanish Fork. So I felt comfortable with that. So, information on individual counts for the election can be found in the resolution. There will also be a statement of votes cast attached to the resolution, and that will show all the ballots cast per precinct, which is interesting information. So, I hereby certify that the information reported in this Canvas report and the accompanying resolution is accurate. Do you have any questions? Mr. Harding.
My only question is we seem to have caught a couple of typos just during the presentation.
Okay, yeah.
You already caught the one, and it looks
Yeah.
like they're still working on some of the other numbers. I'm just, before we vote to certify.
Which ones are they? Where are they?
So Janine, what we caught was in Council District 5, where it had the 1541 as registered voters, which obviously was wrong.
Yeah.
That also was not. You then changed it to have that be the number of ballots, but that wasn't the ballots was 1427.
1,000. You're right. 1,427 ballots. Yes. Were counted. Total votes were counted. Okay.
And then I mean, it's off by a tenth, but the voter turnout I think is 22.3 when it's rounded. But the point is do we want to just triple check your numbers and make sure that they?
Absolutely. I can do that before. Do you want me to do it before you vote, or are you looking for the percentage totals correct?
No, it was just more like we noticed there was an obvious mistake.
Yes.
Do we want to just make sure that there aren't any other?
Yep, I have the results right here. And so,
Janine, so Cliff and I have been looking through the results, and you may have different information than us, but everything else looks right, with the exception that under the mayoral vote, the 14,645 ballots cast only counts the ballots cast for Michelle Kafusi and Sherry Everett. It doesn't count the ballots cast. It doesn't appear to count the ballots cast for Odell Minor.
are you sure? 14,000 were cast?
Because the total,
That would have to include the votes for Odell Minor.
Michelle Kafusi is 14,640. No, it's 10.
You're right.
It's 10.
They actually are included. It's just.
I was going to say
the-
there were 6 and 5 and 5 for Michelle, and so that would be 10
We
something.
were confused by the layout because it listed
Yes,
the first two,
I
then gave a
understand.
total, then
Yes.
gave another number underneath. But that is the total. You're
Yes.
correct.
Question.
Okay.
So on some spreadsheet, I saw that there was a 4th category for the mayor where it said other. I mean, there was write-in for Odell, and then there was like 100-some votes that were other.
I did not see. Did you see that report?
I think I
Amanda?
can explain where that came from.
Yes.
That was in my email.
Okay.
And the where I came up with the other is I added up the votes for Michelle and Sherry Hall Everett and Odell, and they didn't quite add up to the total, so I just assumed there was another.
The time cast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and,
Mr.
and what happens under those circumstances is people write in, if there's a write-in spot, so they write in names, but the people that they write in are not valid write-in. So they are not counted at all.
Right, so I was just wondering if that was reflected in any of the numbers, because you're saying it's just as if they didn't vote at all.
Yes, it's as if they didn't vote at all in the mayor race.
Yeah, okay.
As we go forward with this, first of all, I hope I don't cry when you leave too. I'm thankful that for all the work that you've done for us and over the past many years. As candidates come in and file, that's a nerve-wracking time, I know. And you have been very good to help put people at ease and make them feel appreciated for what they're doing. So I appreciate all the work that you've done for the city over the past years.
Thank you.
As we've gone through this experience over the last year in the primaries and in the general election, are we going to get an opportunity to hear a report from county and determine, is this the process that we want to use going forward? What are the things, again, what they've learned? I think went a little better in the general election than it did the primary election. And is this still the process that we, do they have recommendations for this council on going forward in the future? Those are things I'd like to
Right
find out.
now, the county is going to be looking at what they're going to be doing next year, because next year is a county-run election. So they're going to determine whether they want to do the vote by mail or go back to the electronic voting. Now, the problem with the machines is they aren't certified, they aren't not under warranty anymore. So it's going to cost a lot to get that warranty updated. So they're going to have make that decision. And so in 2 years, when it's the municipal's turn again, as a city, we've always contracted with the county. And so we've used whatever method they are offering. This year, they said they wanted to go with the vote by mail to try it out. And so when we contract with them, we went with the vote by mail. I like the vote by mail. I think we had some problems, but I think that's kind of par for the course when you're starting something new. 2 years ago when Orem did it, they had a lot of problems. And so we're just kind of working through some of those kinks. If the county in 2 years decides that they don't want to offer the vote by mail as a contract for the cities, that's when we would have to decide whether or not we contract with the county. If we do, we would do the machines, or we could do a vote by mail on our own or an optical scan on our own. So I think it's just going to depend on what the county does. It would be very, I don't want to say difficult, it would be a little bit more expensive to do a vote by mail on our own because we don't fall under that county's umbrella of the postage. So we would just have to weigh the costs. Personally, I like the vote by mail. I think that's what most of the cities in the county are looking at doing in the future. But as Mr. Harding points out, it takes away from that voting day experience. So, but I think the administration is just going to have to take a good hard look at the costs and what's offered. If the county doesn't offer the machines, then we will definitely go vote by mail.
And what I understand, it's more expensive to do the vote by mail, but it's cheaper per vote.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, if you look at it, in 2000, I'm comparing mayoral races, and in 2013, our voter turnout during the general was 16%. And here we had 35, almost 36, 37%. And so it could be skewed by the congressional race. And so I think we'll just kind of have to play it by ear. But even then, not bad.
Even that, just there was a little maybe difference in excitement level or interest level in this past mayoral race versus 4 years ago as well. There was 4 years ago. Yeah,
No.
Mayor Curtis was up for re-election, and it was not a very tight race, whereas this
No,
this
you're
last
right.
one was
You're right, that's true.
a lot of interest and excitement.
Even 8 years ago, when Mayor Curtis was first elected, the voter turnout was not, it was lower than 20%. I have never had a voter turnout more than 20% in all my years. So,
Thank you, Janine.
and thank you, and I just want to thank you guys for all your support. You're all amazing, and the city is very lucky to have you guys serving them. Thank you.
Okay, so do we vote on this? Need a motion?
Yep. You have a resolution to vote on.
Okay, looking for a motion? Dave,
I move to approve the resolution as written and presented before us.
a second? Okay. Dave Van Buren, yes.
I was just going to ask Mr. Jones if they've triple-checked those numbers and if they felt comfortable with them.
We've triple-checked the numbers in the report, and I understand that Kelsey has made all those same changes to the resolution. Is that correct? Okay, yeah, go ahead and scroll up a little bit more. Mr. Strachan has the results open, so we're looking at those. While he's doing that, while he's triple checking, I'll just make one procedural comment that I believe I talked to Chair Sewell about before, but it's a little bit odd that in today's meeting, he is actually acting as the council chair and as the acting mayor, and the Board of Commissioners actually consists of the council and the mayor. So, as a legal matter, Chair Sewell should actually vote twice, once as a member of the council and once as the acting mayor. Mr. Strachan has confirmed that the results are all correct.
It's a good thing you have two hands.
Okay, are we prepared to vote? All in favor? That's unanimous, including the mayor and the chair. Okay. So we need to,
Adjourn as the Board of Canvassers and convene as the council.
okay, we need a motion to adjourn. And a second. Dave Hardy made the motion. George Stewart makes the second. All in favor? The vote is unanimous.
Well, you're doing great, Mr. Connect. Why don't you just roll right into the next one here? and
Hey, well,
connect?
I need some names here if we're going to have somebody doing the prayer and the pledge.
I understand Mr. Leo Lyons is doing both, was my understanding. Yeah.
Wonderful. We welcome you to the Provo City Council meeting tonight and the redevelopment agency agenda that we'll be dealing with. It's almost 6 o'clock here at the City Center Council Chambers. And this meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube, Provo Channel 17, where it will also be available for on-demand viewing. The council requests that citizens help maintain the decorum of the meeting by turning off electronic devices, being respectful to the council and to others, and refraining from applauding during the proceedings of the meeting. We will start with a roll call. Cliff?
Brian Jones?
David Harding.
Gary Winterton.
Kim Santiago.
Dave Connect?
George Stewart,
Kay Van Buren.
Dave Sewell?
Wayne Parker.
We will start with an opening prayer, if Leo will be kind enough to offer it.
Our Father in heaven, at this time we're thankful for the opportunity we had to meet today. We're thankful for this council that has given their time and their efforts for this city. Bless them and help them. We're thankful for the opportunity we had to live in Provo and the wonderful things that we have. We're thankful for all our many blessings, Father. Remind us to think of those over this holiday weekend that are not as fortunate as us, that we will be compassionate and help them in any way we can. Once again, we're thankful for all that we have. Father, we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Now will you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to acknowledge Kim Santiago's last council meeting is tonight, and we want to acknowledge her contributions to the city of Provo over the past 4 years and wish her the best. For a neighborhood spotlight tonight, we have the Franklin neighborhood with newly elected Terry McCabe, and it's all yours.
Hi, my name's Terry McCabe, and I'm the new Franklin Neighborhood Chair. I asked my neighborhood what their favorite things are about living in the neighborhood, and the number one thing they said was walkability. They like that their kids can walk to elementary and middle school. They like walking to the Pioneer Park, to the grocery store, to the food truck roundup on Thursdays, to the Front Runner Station, and to walk downtown. The people also love having the farmers market, and when all the flowers are blooming, having tall trees in the park strip, and the view of Y Mountain and our new view of the temple, and also the eclectic mix of architecture and especially the community feel. Do you have any questions for me? Yes.
So you have a newly constructed park down by the railroad tracks that I don't know if you...
That's not in our neighborhood.
Oh, I know.
It's Franklin South.
I know, but does it help you? Does anyone use that? Is it close enough?
Well, they can't walk. Most of them don't let their kids walk across the railroad tracks.
So it's a barrier.
So they drive, yes, if they go. And I don't know if they're going to start having soccer games or the Provo Rec. I don't know when that plan is going to start. So I'm sure the kids will be having games there if that happens.
But it's not doesn't fit in the walkable category.
Not
much.
yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What are some of the plans of Franklin neighborhood moving forward? What are you trying to accomplish in the next year or two?
Well, I actually have a list, just in case you ask this question. Last year, most of the sidewalks were fixed, which is great, but there's a couple. I actually tripped on a sidewalk yesterday, a couple that need to be fixed. And there's also a couple of streets that don't even have sidewalks at all. So I'm a little confused, since we're such an old neighborhood, why we don't have sidewalks on those roads. We would love to get the change of street lights, like Third South has, those new ones. They would fit great in our neighborhood because it has that older feel. And having some crosswalks fixed. I live right next to 5th West, and they redid the road last year, and they forgot to put back in all the crosswalks. So that would be great if they could do that. And also, 2nd West and 5th South is the block north of the Front Runner Station, and there's no crosswalk there. And I know they're planning on building some kind of bridge, but until then, it would be nice to have some paint on the road. Yes?
So down on 5th West, about 5th South, you've got the 2 new Habitat homes.
Yes, actually, one's across the street from my house, the other one's around the corner from my house. Yeah.
And so when I went to the affordable housing tour, we ended up there. And just to the west of that are some like 4 Provo housing homes.
Yes.
And the Habitat homes just had that extra
Brand new.
Well, they also had more landscaping and I'm not sure, just other things that made it look more inviting.
Yeah, those 4 houses, they have grass, but that's it. And our backyards and side yards all kind of blend together, so I'm not a landscape architect. I don't know how they would, make it so they're 4 individual yards instead of one big yard.
Right. So I was there with the head of our Provo housing, and I said, gee, it'd be nice if we could do something. And we talked about if the neighborhood was interested with the matching grant, there could be like a plant your heart out and do some landscaping and work with those people and improve their properties, and the council would pay for it.
Well, hopefully Megan Bowen, my vice chair in charge of gardening, is watching, and she will start working on that.
Thanks. Anything else?
I just have to say that I love that you have a vice chair over gardening.
I have a vice chair in charge of business, in charge of charity, in charge of publicity and social media, and one in charge of infrastructure. And we're also looking for one in charge of the mobile watch and activities. So if anybody's watching and wants to be 2 more vice chairs, I'd love it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the script here, and there we go. As indicated on the screen, a required public hearing will be held for certain agenda items prior to council action. After each such item has been presented, time to comment will be provided for those who wish to speak. For items that do not require a public hearing, public comment will still be taken following the presentation of the item, but will be limited to 10 minutes. At this time, 15 minutes have been set aside for an open public comment period, which is intended to allow comment on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Persons who speak during this time to an item that is on the agenda will not be normally afforded a second opportunity to speak during the comment period specific to that item. During any public comment period, each speaker will generally be limited to 2 minutes. Additional time may be given to individuals specifically invited to speak, such as applicants, neighborhood chairs, or others that may be representing additional persons. Please begin your comments by stating your name and city of residence. Due to noticing requirements, no formal action will be taken in this meeting on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Those with comments are invited to approach the podium. Seeing none, we will close that portion of the meeting. Whoop, you do. Well, come on up.
So my name is Sarah De La Torre. I am a Provo City resident. Mr. Sewell and Mr. Harding have actually already heard from me. I don't know if you remember me, but I went to a Q&A at BYU, hosted for BYU students, to have city council members who were running come and kind of campaign for themselves, let us know a little bit about who they are. And I asked a question advocating for the LGBTQ community. My question is primarily, I guess, what is currently, it's a question more than a comment, kind of what's being done to make the LGBT community feel kind of at home and a part of Provo. I also brought up in this Q&A that I went to at BYU probably like a month back, about in July of this year, there was the Provo City Festival or parade, and I volunteered in Circle, and I know that a lot of people over there were excited to be a part of the parade, and we had families ready to march and people who just wanted to be a part of it. And I know they were told kind of like last minute abruptly that they couldn't be in the parade and that They don't want advocacy groups as a part of the parade, and it was more of a fun thing that the city was holding. And I know that they were going to release a statement saying why they couldn't be part of the parade, and that there was never a statement released. And the Encircle leaders kind of came back and said, well, we're not an advocacy group, we're a nonprofit organization, like we just want to march and be a part of the parade, we're not actually allowed to advocate. So I don't know, I mean, I know that you guys aren't like really in charge of who is included in the parade and who isn't, but since it is a Provo City event, I'm just kind of wondering how you felt that could have been handled better and what's currently being done for the LGBT community, if anything, in Provo right now.
Okay, so on items like this, it's great that you bring up the question, but we don't normally respond to questions that are brought up in this time period. And you're free to talk to our mayor-elect or our council chair or any of us. But you are right, we're not directly over the parade.
Right.
But
Okay.
In fact, I would just add that not only not directly over, but I would say it's a mischaracterization to say that it's a Provo City event, other than the fact that it takes place in Provo City. But the city has no control over the parade at all.
Okay, good to know. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? If not, we will close this portion of the meeting and bring it back to the council. Our first item on the agenda is an ordinance amending Provo City Code Title 11 Sanitation, and that'll be presented by Brian Torgerson.
Council, Mr. Chair, Mr. Parker, thank you. Again, thank you for working with us in the last session to get this right. I appreciate very much your patience and diligence in making sure we're getting things right for the citizens of Provo. Again, maybe more for those who are in attendance tonight, this is a proposed text amendment to the sanitation ordinance, clarifying our existing ordinance that as a matter of policy, we assumed we were requiring each residential unit to have a garbage can. In fact, when we were questioned on this, that was not the case. Working with our legal department, we wanted to fix that loophole, as again, that is a matter of practice that we feel is important to maintain, that all residential units in the city of Provo will be required to participate in garbage collection services. Additionally, as the item was discussed today, it does give us a means of enforcement for those who have contracted with commercial haulers to serve their properties with dumpsters and other means if they're not providing adequate service. And so, again, thank you for working with us on this. Are there any questions as we go from here?
Thank you. Okay, we have an implied motion before us, and I don't know if there's any discussion. We had quite a bit of discussion in our work meeting.
Do you want to invite?
That would help. We will open this up for public comment if anyone would like to ask questions or make a comment. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council and look for a vote if we're ready. Okay, all in favor? And the voting is unanimous. Second item on our agenda is an ordinance amending Provo City Code regarding the timing of council meetings and the election of the Municipal Council Chair, presented by Cliff.
Council, you had an opportunity to see this in the work meeting today. For the public's notice, this is simply a couple of text amendments that will allow this, give some flexibility to the city in terms of its scheduling of meetings. Currently, the requirement is that council meets on the first and third Tuesdays of every month at 5:30. And because we often find it, the schedule is complicated trying to do the first and third, we thought it would be appropriate to change it to select meetings. We'll try and honor the first and third to the, by tradition, but generally, as you look at the next item, we will see the calendar. You'll see that we typically will go every other week through the calendar year for council meetings. The other change is with respect to the election of a council chair and vice chair. Currently, the requirement is it's the first Tuesday of each year. This year, we're not going to have a regular meeting. We're going to have a inauguration on the 2nd of January. And in 2019, the first day was actually going to be on the first Tuesday is actually New Year's Day, and I don't think we're going to have a meeting that day. So we felt that the logical thing to do is have the change of chair and vice chair occur on the first regular council meeting each year. So those are the gist of the two changes in this ordinance.
Brian?
Probably more for public humor than anything else. I'd also point out that we discovered as we were working on this change that because state law says that terms of elected officials start on the first Monday of the year, any year in which the first day of the year is Tuesday, you would actually have your chair election before the term started. So that doesn't matter this year because there's not a municipal election, but we're fixing it now for 2030. So.
Okay, we'd like to open this up for public comment. Seeing none, we will bring it back to the council. Just waiting for Dave. Okay, we ready? Okay, all in favor? And the voting is unanimous. Item 3, a resolution adopting the 2018 council regular meeting schedule.
Council members, I would just note the only change, we just corrected a clerical error on the previous version that you saw. All the content was correct, but there was merely a title referring to the 2017 holiday schedule, but it's been updated to 2018. The dates below it were all filled in with 2018 holidays. But I don't know if I didn't recall any questions from the earlier presentation, but if there are no questions, I guess I'll go ahead and look at the resolution.
Can we also put up the calendar?
Mr. Chair, you can see that we followed the first and third for most months, and then some months it just worked out better to have it on the 2nd and 4th.
Like November.
Like November.
Okay.
January.
Yeah. Okay, we'd like to open this up. Oh, public comment?
Yeah, I'll make the comment now, if it's all right. When I first reviewed this, I really was thinking about the, first and third as much as possible. But you've talked about, looking a little more emphasis on every other. And so I'll bring this up. In May, we do the first and third. But because I think April 3rd is something, so April was shifted for spring break. So it's shifted to 2nd and 4th. But that means that we have 2 meetings on subsequent weeks, April 24th and May 1st, and then and then we have 3 weeks between meetings towards the end of May, and so that might be another place where we would look to have it on the 2nd and 4th. That would space out the meetings much more evenly.
24th, 30, yeah.
But I'm fine going forward with that. It's just
Kelsey, can you bring up the...
So Cliff, I'm wondering if in May, it was May 15th rather than the 22nd, so that it wasn't too close to the holiday weekend?
Yeah, well, we want to, let's pull, if we can pull up the rough, we have a calendar view that we worked from. This is the high-tech version.
Is this also an issue of the GFOA?
No. No. Okay.
Okay, and Kelsey, if you zoom out, I can explain. So on this calendar, in green, the boxes refer to holidays that the city is closed. There's a couple areas where you'll see a green underline. Those are days that the school district is closed. So that April 3rd meeting that Councilmember Harding noted, that there's not a meeting that date, that's right during the middle of spring break for the school district. Likewise, we've avoided scheduling anything the same day as a primary or general election. And then we've avoided, where possible, trying to avoid having it. Mr. Strachan spoke earlier in the work meeting about the difficulties associated with holding a meeting the day following closure of city offices. And so Councilmember Harding had suggested perhaps adding a meeting on the 29th of May or shifting those to the 8th and the 22nd.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what
I think looking at what he's saying is that if council was willing, we could amend the list to go with the 8th and 22nd and provide that every other week.
And I think that was originally what I had put together in a previous version, but in attempting to
Somehow
stay
we
close
changed
to the
it,
first and third, it shifted.
So we need an ordinance, a motion to change that list.
It's a personal preference, but I prefer the first and third. Usually, I like, if people ask, I say it's usually the first and third.
Yeah. And so essentially you could do two things. You could either move the 24th of April to the 17th and maintain that, or you could go the other way. I will note that on May 1st is when the administration delivers its proposed budget to the council.
We'd love to have you shift that to the 8th.
You'd like to shift that to the 8th? I might resist that.
So I would just make the observation that going 3 weeks once in a while is a great break for us.
Yeah. So either way, whichever way you change it, Councilman Harding, is we'd end up putting 2 weeks together, unless the only way we do avoid that is if we went to the 8th and the 22nd of May. And I'm indifferent.
I'm indifferent as well. I won't make the motion. I just wanted to point that out and just kind of float the idea. But I'm fine moving forward with what we have.
If it makes you feel any better, we're looking at the 22nd as a retreat for the budget.
I won't make the motion unless the administration feels really strongly that they'd like to move that to the 8th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we can open it up to the public if anyone has a question or comment on our calendar. Okay.
Sure. Oops, sorry. I might just note the school district typically meets on 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, and so when we have those overlaps, we sometimes create a dilemma for our residents who'd like to be at one or the other meetings. And so, so again, I noticed this time we do have quite a number of at least second Tuesdays during the year, which could potentially cause a conflict. But again, I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that you'd shuffle for things like spring break and other things. But we do get occasional feedback from folks who like to attend both or watch both and have a dilemma when we shuffle our meetings around a little bit.
Okay. So we already had our public comment, and we're ready to vote, I believe. Thank you for your, yes. All right, all in favor? And the voting is unanimous. That brings us to the end of our agenda for tonight, and we will adjourn by common consent. What's up?